Mass is a measurement of the amount of matter in an object. Some objects have a small amount of matter and some have a large amount of matter. For example, a tennis ball has less amount of matter than a basketball. A car has a lot of matter in it. All objects that we see have some amount of matter in them. So we can say that all of them have a mass. For example, a spoonful of water has mass, and even the air we breathe has mass. In common usage, people use the term weight in place of mass. Mass and weight are different in science. Weight is a force, while mass is the amount of matter. You will study more about the differences between weight and mass in science class. So how do we find out how much matter an object has? You need to measure it, and you need a way to represent the result of your measurement. These measurements are represented using units of mass. There are different systems of units of mass used in different parts of the world. Let's look at the units we use in the United States to measure mass. The most common units are ounce, pound, and ton. 1 pound is equivalent to 16 ounces, and 1 ton is equal to 2,000 pounds. Now you might wonder why we need 3 different units to measure mass. Well, it is because some of the units represent small amounts of matter, small amounts of mass, and some of the units represent larger amounts of matter. And you will end up using the unit that makes most sense for the object that you are measuring. Food is usually measured in ounces. Body mass is usually measured in pounds. And large numbers like cargo loads are usually measured in tons. Keep in mind that it is not incorrect to measure food in pounds, for example, or body mass in ounces. It's just that if you use a unit that's too small or too big, the number will be too big or too small, making them harder to work with and remember. There are abbreviations for these units too. For ounces, we can use the abbreviation OZ with a period afterwards. For pounds, we use the abbreviation LB with a period after, or LB. That's an L though, not a 1. So you can write 1 pound as 1 LB, period. Or you can write 1 ounce as 1 OZ, period. The most popular system of measurement is called the metric system. It has many units to represent different amounts of matter, or mass. Let's take a look at some measurements of mass, or the measurements of mass in the metric system. So we have milligram, centigram, decigram, gram, decagram, hectogram, and kilogram. So let's talk a little bit about these measurements of mass in the metric system. The basic unit of mass is the gram. And you can see that all of these measurements have gram as their suffix. Each of these measurements uses the word gram at the end here. The smallest unit of measure is the milligram, and the biggest is the kilogram. There is an abbreviation for each one of these words. So for milligram, you want to use simply an M and a G, and that tells us milligram. For the centigram, CG. For the decigram, DG. And then you'll see very commonly just a G used for grams. So G. And then for the decagram, DCG, and that's the only one that has 3 letters in it. Hectogram, HG, and then kilogram. You'll see a lot of these too, KG. And so you'll notice as you are doing problems and solving problems that most of the time you will see the abbreviations used, and you will use the abbreviations to report your answers. So become familiar with these abbreviations. You'll see them used a lot. You need to be careful between decigram and decagram. Since they both start with a D and they both have the word gram in them, there has to be a little difference between the two. They can't both be DG. So be careful. The decigram is DG and the decagram is the DCG. Sometimes those two can be confusing. Just like 1 pound equals 16 ounces, these measurements also have a relationship between them, but it's actually easier to remember. Think of 10 times. So a bigger unit is always 10 times the immediate smaller unit. And so I've written these over here to see the relationship between the 10 times. So we can see starting here at the top that in the centigram, a centigram is equal to 10 milligrams. So 10 times the previous smaller measurement. A decigram is equal to 10 centigrams. A gram is equal to 10 decigrams. A decagram equal to 10 grams. Hectogram equal to 10 decagrams. And the kilogram is equal to 10 hectograms. The most popular of these, most commonly used of these measurements of mass are going to be the milligram, centigram, gram, and kilogram. You won't see decigram, decagram, and hectogram used as often as you'll see these other more commonly used measurements of mass. Medicine doses are often given and measured using milligrams. Food is often measured using grams. And body mass is often measured using kilograms. You need to remember the names of these units and their relationships. The best way to remember them is by solving a lot of problems. With time and practice, they become very easy to remember. So what do we use? What kind of tool do we use to measure mass? A balance scale is the tool used to measure mass. An object of unknown mass is placed on one side of the scale, and then objects of known mass are added to the other side of the scale until the two sides come into balance with each other.